Horror is a difficult genre to produce, with movies being pumped out left, right and centre, and for the most part, they're duds. However, among the dirt you'll sometimes find a gem, but not everyone gets to see it, with some of these movies going largely unnoticed and unrecognised. So today on Top 5 Scary Videos, I'm going to be counting down our list of the top 5 greatest horror movies nobody watched part 3. Before we begin though, be sure to stick around until the end of the video where I'll be responding to some of your comments. And with that, let's jump in. Coming in at 5, The Black Coat's Daughter 2015. The Black Coat's Daughter is a 2015 Canadian-American psychological horror film written and directed by Osgood Perkins. The film stars actors Emma Roberts, Kiernan Shipka, Lucy Boynton, and James Remmer, with the plot taking place over the winter break, during which time 2 Catholic schoolgirls get left behind at their boarding school, which the nuns are rumoured to be Satanists. This movie is so underrated but has managed to garner a large cult following, and for a very good reason. The movie lingers with you for a long time to come, and it's not one you'll forget anytime soon. The Black Coat's Daughter received largely positive reviews, with the film holding an approval rating of 73% on Rotten Tomatoes, with the general consensus reading, "Slow building and atmospheric, The Black Coat's Daughter resists girls in peril cliches in a supernatural thriller that serves as a strong calling card for debuting writer-director Oz Perkins." Coming in at number 4, The Haunting 1963. The Haunting is a 1963 British supernatural psychological horror film directed and produced by Robert Wise and adapted by Nelson Gidding from the novel The Haunting of Hill House, written by Shirley Jackson. The movie stars Julie Harris, Claire Bloom, Richard Johnson and Russ Tamblyn, and depicts the experiences of a small group of people invited by a paranormal investigator to investigate a purportedly haunted house. The Haunting was released on September 18th, 1963, and audiences were well and truly frightened by it. Film critic Dora Jane Hamblin related how 4 of her female friends, expecting a ho-hum film, took out makeup during the film's first few minutes with the intention of fixing their faces. The film, however, proved so frightening that the women were jumping out of their seats and losing their items. In Houston, Texas, a local cinema promoted the film as so chilling that it held a contest to see which of 4 patrons could sit all the way through a midnight screening. The prize was $100. A lot back then. However, despite all of this, the movie was still split among critics, with the general consensus being that it was a stylish movie but had major flaws in the plot and lacked excitement. However, the film's stature has grown since its initial release, with director Martin Scorsese placing The Haunting first on his list of the 11 scariest horror films of all time. Not to mention, Steven Spielberg considers the film one of the seminal films of his youth and is the scariest film ever made. A remake of the film was attempted in the early 1990s by horror author Stephen King, who pitched the project under the name Rose Red to Steven Spielberg. However, the pair mutually agreed to shelve the project after not coming to an agreement. The Haunting was formally remade in 1999 under the same title. Horror director Wes Craven initially worked on the project but ultimately abandoned it. The adaptation was later taken over by Jan de Bont and starred Liam Neeson, Catherine Zeta-Jones and Owen Wilson, and was universally hated. It is a very bad film. In at number 3, Tusk 2014. Tusk is a 2014 American comedy body horror film written and directed by Kevin Smith, based on a story from his Smodcast podcast. The film stars Michael Parks, Justin Long, Haley Joel Osment and Genesis Rodriguez. The plot concerns a US podcaster who ventures into the Canadian wilderness to interview an old man who has an extraordinary past, and the American learns the man has a dark secret involving a walrus. Now, the idea for the movie came during the recording of Smodcast 259, The Walrus and the Carpenter. In the episode, Smith, with his longtime friend and producer Scott Moiser, discussed an article featuring a Gumtree ad where a homeowner was offering a living situation free of charge if the lodger agrees to dress as a walrus. The podcast went on from there, resulting in almost an hour of the episode being spent on reconstructing and telling a hypothetical story based on the ad. Following the episode, Smith went on to tweet his followers asking if they wanted to see the walrus story turned into a movie, and of course they said yes, and the rest is history. However, not everyone was a fan of the result, with reviews being largely mixed. On Rotten Tomatoes, the film currently holds an approval rating of 45%, with the general consensus reading, reading, Tusk is pleasantly ridiculous and charmingly self-deprecating, but that isn't enough to compensate for its thin, overstretched story. Tusk had its world premiere at the Toronto International Film Festival before it was eventually released on September 19, 2014 by A24. The film was Smith's first major wide release since Cop Out back in 2010, and ultimately performed poorly at the box office after receiving mixed reviews from critics and viewers alike. However, I loved it, and that's all that matters, because this is my list and it's about me. Coming in at number 2, The Changeling, 1980. The Changeling is a 1980s Canadian supernatural psychological horror film directed by Peter Medic and starring George C. Scott, Trish Van Devere, and Melvin Douglas. The plot concerns an esteemed New York City composer who relocates to Seattle, where he moves into a mansion he comes to believe is haunted. The screenplay itself is based upon events that writer Russell Hunter claimed to have experienced while he was living in the Henry Treat Rogers mansion in the Cheesman Park neighborhood of Denver, Colorado in the late 1960s. Hunter said he found a century-old journal in a hidden room detailing the life of a disabled boy who was kept in isolation by his parents. During a seance, he claimed the spirit of a deceased boy directed him to another house, where he discovered human remains and a gold medallion bearing the dead boy's name. Creepy stuff indeed. The film premiered at the USA Film Festival in Dallas, Texas on March 26, 1980, and was released simultaneously in Canada and the United States 2 days later. Overall, it received hugely positive reviews from critics and viewers alike, and was an early Canadian-produced film to have major success internationally. The film went on to win 8 inaugural Genie Awards, including Best Motion Picture, and was also nominated for 2 Saturn Awards. As of right now, it is considered to be one of the best horror films of all time, and one of the most influential Canadian films in history. And finally, coming in at number 1, Goodnight Mummy, 2014. Goodnight Mummy is a 2014 Austrian horror film written and directed by Veronika Franz and Severin Fiala. It was also selected as the Austrian entry for the Best Foreign Language Film at the 88th Academy Awards. However, it failed to get nominated, as horror films never do. The plot concerns 2 twin boys who do absolutely everything together, from collecting beetles to feeding stray cats. However, when the two welcome home their mother after her reconstructive surgery, face wrapped in bandages and demeanor distant, they grow suspicious of her identity. Many horrors of recent years have tackled the issues of motherhood, and Goodnight Mummy is no exception, and has a place among movies such as Hereditary and Us, and maybe even The Babadook. It's a movie that leans into the trend by commenting on how women are treated when they engage in acts viewed as antithetical to motherhood, and in the case of Goodnight Mummy, that is plastic surgery. The movie received hugely positive reviews upon its release, with folks calling it dark, violent, and drenched in dread. Goodnight Mummy is perfect for extreme horror enthusiasts or filmgoers who prefer to watch between splayed fingers. The National Board of Review also named the film one of the top 5 foreign language films of 2015. The movie is utterly terrifying, disturbing, and one that is not easy to forget, even if you spend the duration of the movie with your eyes closed. It will have you wanting to put something a little lighter on following the intense ordeal. Well, there we have it. Do you guys agree with our list? Were there any horror movies that we missed? Leave us all your thoughts and feelings in the comments down below, and perhaps we can do a part 4. Before I go though, I just want to respond to a few comments from one of our last videos. Top 5 scariest cosmic horror comics you need to read. Scott Skeen said, so Fatale is a chronicle of Lucy's life. Also, nothing from Hellboy or the BPRD. Fatale is my life. I am a femme fatale. Thank you for recognizing my position. Also, I haven't read that comic, so I'm sorry that it's not on the list. Maybe part 2, if you want it, I'll put it on the list. Genji Jar said, Lucy in a black turtleneck commands respect. Me in any turtleneck commands respect. Me in this turtleneck commands respect. Also, just respect me at all times. Thank you. Lalushi said, I'm here to get creeped from the content, but mostly for the bloopers at the end of the video. You're very welcome. There are usually a lot of bloopers in my videos because I f up a lot. You're welcome. And it's creepy. Raphael Mashal Schneider said, Lucy, for some reason I've always seen you as some sort of alluring Celtic entity incarnate. Please take it as a compliment, and that's what I mean. I take it as a compliment. Thank you. Thank you very much. Neutron Starsaber said, wow, Josephine sounds a lot like Lucy herself, especially the part whether she wants it or not. I mean, that creeps me out. That may be one of the creepiest comments I've ever received. But thank you. I'm glad you all think the femme fatale sounded like me. Respect. And on that note, if you haven't already, be sure to give this video a big thumbs up, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss another scary vid. Until next time, see you later. It was a short point. Okay, well, it is what it is. At least I've got comments. Also nothing from Hellboy or the BR. Also nothing from Hellboy or the B. Oh my god. Also nothing from Hellboy or the BPRD.